I showed the officer the footage from the cameras on a laptop of my wife saying she'd make stuff up to ruin my life. And then the footage from the living room after she ran out of my office and into the master bedroom down the hall. And then the footage from the camera in the bedroom of her calling the police and lying. I'd recorded it all, and from multiple angles no less. And even though she claimed to the police I'd hit her, there was not only no marks on her, but the cameras all around the house showed a completely different story. Then I handed the police a thumb drive and said it had all the video footage they needed of her calling them under false pretenses. My wife, even in the face of all this, stuck to her lie of saying I was an abuser, and even tried to say the recordings were illegal, and therefore inadmissible. But I pointed out they are legal because they were security cameras inside of my own home, and not recorded in public. My wife looked to the police and told them to do something, to which they did. She was the one put in handcuffs. And she started bawling like a child. I could only sit there shaking my head. This was once the woman I'd loved for so many years. I thought she was a wonderful, intelligent and endearing person. I couldn't have been more wrong. As the police took her away, she screamed that they couldn't do this to her. But didn't fight back much, otherwise resisting arrest would have been added to her charges. I then shut down all her credit cards that were in my name, and stopped any future payments into the joint bank account. So she had to use entirely her own money to bail herself out of jail. She'd saved plenty all those years she was still working while the mortgage was only on me. So she was anything but broke. She came back for her car, which I'd taken the liberty of packing a few of her suitcases full of her clothes and some other things, and left the key on the seat. So she wasn't even able to come back into the house. My wife's parents did come to speak to me a day after she bailed herself out of jail. Initially they only had the backwards story she told them, which was basically the same thing she tried to tell police. Her father especially was ready to attack me. Old as he is, he's big and strong. But when I asked him if he knew anything about my wife's affair, or her pregnancy, he looked very surprised and gave me the chance to explain myself. I pulled out the laptop again to show my in-laws what I'd recorded. When they found out the truth, they were disgusted and said that they couldn't believe this person was their daughter. They apologized to me and said they'd keep in touch to help out with my kids. Then they called my wife on speaker right in front of me and confronted her about her lies. She tried to double down, till they said they were with my right then and saw the recordings. They knew everything, and wanted her out of their house immediately. She tried to backpedal, but my in-laws said they did not raise her to be a selfish adulterous bitch that would try to frame her own husband. And she was no longer their daughter. They disowned her over the phone right then and there. And then hung up before my wife could say anything else. She tried to call back, but they ignored her every attempt. And when they got home, not only was she gone, but she destroyed several things around their house, which my mother-in-law was in tears about. I still consider my ex's parents my in-laws, because they still drop by from time to see their grandchildren. But my ex is effectively dead to us all. My wife later came back with her AP in tow to pack her things. AP wouldn't even come in the house, and my wife refused to speak a word to me while gathering her remaining things. She knew there were cameras everywhere. And she'd damn herself more if she tried anything else. I wasn't alone either, as my sister and Bill were there to help keep an eye on her. Bill made sure to keep his eye on AP from the window. My wife was still packing when the kids got home. And she made no attempt to speak to either of them. Not even when our youngest cried for her. Before leaving, she did take a few of the photos we had of each other from our wedding off the wall and threw them on the floor to break them. I think she was expecting a reaction out of me, because of the way she looked at me while doing it. But since I didn't say anything, she just took the last of her bags and walked out the door. After she was gone, I had to call my elderly mother to come stay with me for a while because I couldn't take care of my kids alone. I couldn't take a lot time off work, and I didn't have a lot of daycare options either. I also ordered DNA tests for my kids. I was sure they were mine. But several people told me that just in case, I had to know. Thankfully yes, both of my children are mine. And yes, I did get tested for STIs. And I'm clean, so no worries there. About a week later my wife showed back up at my door saying that she would agree to a clean divorce if I did as well. Meaning she'd have gotten half of everything if I had agreed. But I said no to her face. There was some fighting back and forth, and she more or less admitted to finding out the law in this state was not on her side. We got engaged, got married, and lived our whole lives in this state. There was no way she could get out of taking a major loss unless I agreed to settle. Which I did not. Then I said that she betrayed me, our kids, her parents, and practically everyone by having an affair. Then I slammed the door in her face. She left quietly, and I didn't see her again till court. A few months later in divorce court, my wife was visibly quite pregnant by then. And she'd gotten a lawyer. AP was also nowhere to be seen. I expected her to lie to the judge, which she started to a few times. But I had enough video evidence to refute any lies, so she really didn't stand a chance. So instead she tried to drag out the divorce by simply refusing to cooperate and making various demands. She wanted most of my savings for starters. And she wanted a long list of other things I own. And she wanted me to buy out of her half of the house, even though she never paid into it. On my end I was pushing for full custody of the kids, and to get her name off the house deed. I had the video evidence to back up how she said she didn't really care for our children anymore too, and how she said she would make up lies. My wife tried to stall, and repeatedly change her demands. But the judge didn't let her keep dragging things out. This being an at-fault state meant that she was entitled to very little since she was the adulterer. And her attempting to frame me only made her case even worse. In the end she lost all custody of our kids, and walked away with nothing more than her belongings, what could be considered a fair financial settlement considering the circumstances. And the car I'd previously bought for her. The title was in my name, but I signed it over without a care as part of the settlement. She'd made no attempts to even speak to our kids during the entire divorce anyway. So I got full custody, the house is entirely mine now, and I'm completely free of her. My now ex-wife did try to keep up with her lies about me to others before and during the divorce. But my sister spread word around of my wife's infidelity, and soon all mutual friends cut her off when they realized who was telling the truth. She and her AP left town together after the divorce ended. I heard AP wasn't fired, but he was transferred. Where? I don't know, but I do know my ex had to go with him. They could have transferred him and my ex to freeze in Greenland for all I care. I'm just happy they've both left. My ex should have had her do-over baby by now. And I hope it was worth it to her. This is not what I thought I'd be posting to Reddit after just talking about my wife releasing a bunny where a hawk could get it. But many of the comments I previously got about how my wife was acting made me realize I should have been paying attention to the red flags long ago. I guess I just kept rose-tinted glasses on for our entire marriage. But it's all over now. Thank you to any readers who made it through this. I know it was a lot to read. But this is my life. TLDR, my wife unapologetically cheated on me. Admitted to hating our children and even a prior affair while being secretly recorded. Was only with me for the financial stability. Her AP is a decade younger than her, and she got pregnant by him. I caught them with hidden cameras and filed for divorce. My ex lost everything, including her family, as they all disowned her. I am now a free man after the divorce, and doing well. Edit. I got my ex's name off the house deed because all bank records that could be dug up showed only I ever paid into it. My ex was also repeatedly argumentative with the judge. And in an at-fault state, being a confirmed cheater puts you in world of trouble during a divorce. It's comparable to having a signed prenup against you. And when I said I got the meanest lawyer at the firm I went to, I meant it. The man was like a bear and a shark. The payout my wife got was 60 grand, and she also got the car I bought new for her a couple of years ago that cost me 50 grand. The car was paid off, and I transferred the title to her. My ex was also still offered partial custody of our children. But since the video of her saying she didn't care about them anymore had been seen, she didn't bother to have any custody and willingly relinquished all rights to our kids when she realized she couldn't get her way. And for those who might think police wouldn't have arrested my ex for lying, think again. The police here don't mess around. And my ex, with a sociopathic grin on her face, tried to frame me as a wife beater. That's plenty grounds for arrest.